Network. The whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be, so prove them and stand out to something.
What's up, guys? Michael Mazurkovich just got interviewed by Keith Andrew. Check out his show. He is interviewing cool people about arts and acting and the entertainment industry. And he is a person who is moving past his own disabilities to create a beautiful journey for himself and for his community. So it's something you want to promote, and it's also something you haven't seen before.
Hi, I'm Molly Breen, and I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew, who had some other people from the entertainment industry on his show. He's an advocate for people with disabilities, and I think you should check it out.
Hi, I'm Paul Olenek, and I was on the Keith Andrew Network from New York City, and was joined by other guests, and it was a wonderful experience to be interviewed by Keith Andrew, a gentleman who's got a learning disability, but he does one heck of a job, and I highly recommend you check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Keith Andrew Network. It is episode 998. That is right, 998. 2 episodes away from our goal of 1,000. With that being said, today we have not 1, not 2, but 3 guests who are in the entertainment world. We're going to hear their stories. With that being said, Paul, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I watched a lot of movies growing up, and I started to impersonate some of the characters of the movies, and then I decided to go into drama. And when I was 18, I took a long shot and went to New York and entered a television commercial competition and modeling competition. And to my surprise, I won the TV commercial competition. And lo and behold, I went home and I decided to go to the National Institute of Broadcasting. And I got my certificate from there, and went into the television network close by and did a whole bunch of impersonations for them. And they hired me for the voice of a dog. And that half an hour show that they did on recycling won an award in Canada. And then I found myself getting into television. My first job was as a on-air promotions TV writer, producer, director, which I did the trailers for the movies and for shows like Seinfeld, Frasier, Friends, and stuff like that. And and then I kept on acting as well on the side and doing impersonations, and they would hire me for their commercials at the same time.
No, that's really amazing. I do have some great ideas, but we can talk about it off the air. Molly, you are an actress and also a co-founder and co-director.
Yes, I am an actor, and I am the co-founder and co-director of Tennessee Playwright Studio, which is both a playwright development lab and a theater production company that I run with my partner in business and in life. So that's mainly what I do. I produce, I direct, I sometimes dance, I sometimes choreograph. Yeah.
No, it sounds like you're really busy.
Most of the time I am, yes.
Now, we will talk about those subjects in a couple of minutes, but Michael, same exact question. What can you tell us about yourself?
My name is Michael Mazurkovich, and I really, really love acting for film. And my love of that has gotten me into screenwriting and some co-producing as well. Always wanted to be an actor, and then had a baby in high school, and my son now lives with my parents and I, and we're very lucky. But so didn't go into acting, and then realized when he was like 14, like, oh, he and I live with my parents. I can still dive into that life choice. So actually, probably when he was 12. So yeah, so the last probably 5 years, I've just been doing as much acting and writing as I can. A lot of very low budget independent stuff. So I co-produced a feature film called Snowblinded, where I run around naked in the woods, screaming, covered in fake blood, which was really cold. It was all in winter. And I'm working on another co-production right now, actually, of another friend's feature. But I also, I've acted in some really great indie movies in Canada and a bunch of commercials.
Oh,
So I'm having a great time.
Yeah, very cool. Molly, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about acting, but I do want to get this part out of the way first. What can you tell us about your being a co-founder? Like, who inspired you to create that?
Who inspired me to create the company?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we were both inspired by the idea that it is really hard for playwrights to get work produced. Playwriting is not kind of like if you write a novel, which I also do there's a process. You write, you try to get an agent, the agent tries to sell the book. There is an A to B. With playwriting, there really isn't an A to B. And a lot of it tends to be who you know or who you went to school with. And there's not a lot of spots for writers, and there's tons of talented writers coming in. So knowing that we wanted to make a place in our home in Nashville for playwrights to work on their plays and then ultimately to produce new work that's relevant to things that are going on now instead of, rehashing Oklahoma. There's nothing wrong with Oklahoma, but that's not what our mission was in terms of wanting to create a company that really embraces new work.
No, absolutely. And the next question I want to ask you, then we can go to the other subject about writing for all of you. Paul, do you write?
Well, I used to, like I said, I used to write the promotions, like the trailers and ads for the promotions that would entice you to watch movies or shows on TV. I do a little bit of writing on the side as well. Currently I'm doing audiobooks now. I do children's audiobooks and I do the voices for all those characters. And but I would like to delve back into a little bit more writing. It's been a while, but over the years I have written about at least 1,000 promotions anyways.
I do have some great ideas.
That's a lot.
I do have some great ideas for the three of you off the air. But actually, no, I'm just going to say my goal is once I get 1,000, I want someone to write articles about me. And then I can go to like newspaper people, like the Times, the Herald, the Record, the New Yorker, or whatever. And you guys, what you write about me, I can use that. Of course, you get credit. Say, hey, I wrote this article about this kid who has disabilities. So it's a win-win. You're helping me get in the paper. Right. But at the same time, you're getting your article in the paper as well. I suck at writing articles. So if the four of us work together, there's no reason why we couldn't accomplish our goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the next thing I want to ask you is for people with this, well, I saved that for the next part. Now, let's play a fun game, actually. The three of you never been on my show before. And the first question I want to ask you is, if you had to be a writer and a producer or a director, how would you direct my show? And Molly, we're going to start off with you because you are also a co-director. So I want to know from your point of view, how you would change it, how you would make it more, I think it's professional, but how would you take it to the next point?
Well, I'm not first of all, I'm not a like film director, so I don't have experience in that. But honestly, I think the way you're doing it, I'm all for people creating their own work. That's what I do. That's what the people around me do. And I think you've developed your own rhythm. I've watched some of your shows. You bring in these people, and I wouldn't necessarily change that. I think what you're doing is really interesting, and I'd continue with that. And then I'd bring someone in who does know how to direct films to give you more specific advice about how to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, definitely like Molly said, you know, Keith, you're doing your own thing, you're making it happen, and it's fantastic. I mean, I don't know. When you're writing a screenplay, a lot of it is about using a structure to be able to play within that structure. You know, you've got your acts, or you've got your catalyst and your debate and this, and you know, all these screenplay isms, and having a bit of that structure kind of gives you more freedom to play within it for screenwriting. So I don't know if you would want to like think about structuring each episode so that a viewer knows like, oh, I'm 5 minutes in, I just logged in, I'm 5 minutes in, okay, I know that we're at this part, okay, I'm 10 minutes into the interview, I know, you know, that kind of thing might be interesting to play with. But like, I don't know, that's the only thing I can really think of, and even that's not necessary. That's just, I'm just
No,
trying
that
to
is a
say
great
something.
idea. And I didn't mean to interrupt. I do apologize.
No,
But
that's fine.
that is a great idea. I have no idea how to do that, but you never. I'm always up to trying new things. And Paul, what about you? You mentioned you do trailers, and you
Yeah,
did
I would have like a real fancy intro with a big announcer like Don Pardo saying, "It's the Keith Andrew Network. We're broadcasting live from New York. We're here with special guests so and so and so and so." And you know, I'd spice it up at the beginning and have a fancy intro. Have, you know, you do lots of effects with your program, and I like that with the montages of people and things like that. And I'd have some of your higher end clips from specialty shows or whatever as your intro, and an extra as well that you create as a donut and put it all together. You know what I mean? And then you
actually.
can have some segues as well in between that you could have like saying what's on the next show or whatever, who's coming up next or whatever, that is pre-taped that you cut in between the segments as well.
That is a
Oh,
good idea, actually, Paul. That's a very good idea.
no, that sounds
Thanks.
wonderful. It's if I don't. Well, Paul, if you're interested, maybe you can do the voices because I don't have anyone else.
I'd love to do some voices for you. Sure, I do some voices for you. No problem. No worries.
I mean,
Well,
Paul, like, I know this is probably terrible because you probably get this all the time. But like, do you have a voice that you want to let us hear now? Because
Hi ho, it's Kermit the Frog here with our special guest, Mr. Keith Andrews. Yay!
wow,
Wow.
wow,
That's
that
amazing.
that is fantastic.
well, while we're on the subject, can you guys do any impressions?
I can do quite a few, but that's what I do all the time. But I don't know. Who else do you want to hear?
Let's say, can you do Christopher Walken?
I can't do Christopher Walken, but I can do Christopher Lloyd. Einstein hit the time circuits on the new DeLorean. It's a long story, Marty. We got to go back to the future boy.
Beautiful.
For,
Nice.
for me, now I'm trying to have what's out a card in front of my face, trying to think without hurting myself. I can do, and I can imitate Ray Romano. And a lot of people say, I like to say it's Ray Romano, but a lot of people say it's number two from the Venture Brothers. Hey, come on. You know, I just went to ShopRite today. I bought you some deodorants for myself. Why do you have to do? You use that? You could have just put yourself. You're standing right there.
That's good. That's a pretty
Yeah,
good Ray
that's
Romano. Way to
very
go.
impressive.
That's pretty good.
I
Oh man,
appreciate it. And the other ones I can do, like Yogi Bear. Hey, boo boo. How you do?
not
Nice.
bad.
Nice.
I mean, there's a couple other ones. I do one more, but I like I haven't done it in a long time. For me, I'm like actually kind of self-conscious because I have people always criticizing me. So it's kind of like a reflection of it. But I can do Bane, you know. Yes, we shall go to the city, and then we shall give it back to the people. So isn't that
That's
good?
good. That your Bane's good. It's pretty bang on. That's good. I was just doing Bane last week, so yeah, that's
Oh,
a real
yeah.
good job. Way to go, Keith.
No, absolutely. So we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I have a new format that we're gonna try when we come back from this commercial break. Welcome back from the commercial break. My name is Keith Andrew, and this is episode 998. Amazing, I'll pull that out of my ass. 998 episodes. With that being said, I'm here as 4 free amazing people. With that being said, the first question is for all of you. Have you worked with people with disabilities? And for people who have learning disabilities, who want to follow in your footsteps, what are your words of encouragement? Whoever wants to start.
I'll start. I actually volunteer for a theater troupe for adults with disabilities, and we do theater and some film projects and some dance things. So I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I really enjoy it. And my advice is just theater and the arts are for everyone. And you know, the more that we can do to include people, the better it is for the whole world.
No, absolutely. What about you, Paul?
I think that you were showing us examples of impersonations and things like that, and you hit some pretty spot on ones there. And it's good to encourage people, with disabilities and things to challenge themselves and do things like that as well. And I sometimes take care of people with disabilities, and I do impersonations for them, and I find them repeating them back to me. And they do a pretty good job where they can almost like imitate exact, and it's good to see. It's good to see a smile on their face.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a great question. I've actually I've made some short films with my cousin Matt, who has spina bifida, so he's in a wheelchair and he's not great at memorizing, but he's got a great brain for like writing stuff and putting together ideas. So we've worked together on a couple of things, and we work around it. Obviously, if there's a chase scene, we use what we have. If his character is chasing my scene, there's an element of comedy because he's, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. If it's if it's a scene with a lot of lines, we get the general ideas and we improv it, or we figure out how to cut around it. So I guess the advice that I would have is two things. Number one, there's so much technology. There's so, oh, you can't do this thing. That's okay. Technology or movie magic can make that happen. Figure out the parts that you can do and that you're comfortable with and do them. And we have enough amazing technology to do the rest. So that doesn't have to hold people back the way it used to. And the other thing is that right now is a really great time for inclusion because people want to hear new stories, people want to see new actors, and people want it to be authentic. If there is a role in a story about someone with a disability, what people want to see is an actor playing that role who has experienced or is experiencing that disability. So it's, in exactly the right situation, it becomes your story to tell. So, if you can find those stories, then there is a place for you in them. They are waiting for you. They need you. They want exactly you for those roles. And if there isn't that story being told right now, one of the things that I tell to everyone, and I mean, and I'll caveat this by saying, acting is still a skill. I would rather watch an actor who doesn't have the disability play a role who can play real emotions than someone who is actually that person but can't play the real emotions. So get trained up. If you want to be an actor, get acting skills. If you want to do impressions, work with Paul, or I don't know, like do you still have to do the training that it takes to be able to bring what the camera needs, but there is a role out there for you that only you can play. Once you're ready for that role, it will find you. And if that role doesn't find you, find people in your network who can write or who have written, and get guidance from them to write your own story so that you can create a story that is yours, about you, that you can play into. Because we all have a story. We all have a story inside of us. And chances are that if you have experienced or live with a disability, your story is something that the average person has not seen in the average movie. That is incredibly, incredibly valuable. So if you want to be a storyteller, yes, the world wants and needs your story. Just find the people who have experience crafting those stories that can help you craft it, and find the training that works for you to learn the emotional skills to do the craft of acting, which is very technical and needs a certain amount of emotional abilities. Find the training you need, find the people that you need, but don't let your disability hold you back. Let it be the story that you tell and the way you tell your story. And I know that's easy to say as someone who hasn't tried it. I know that there's a lot that
No, you're right.
makes it harder, but it is also a unique story that only you can tell. So tell it.
No, I agree. And for myself versus the whole talk show, and I enter in the entertainment world, or media world, whatever the hell you want to call it, I taught myself, because you guys can read a script and you guys can write or read a book and do that. But for me, if I was doing like a test, I'd be like, okay, first here's, especially on a multiple choice, 4 questions, you have A, B, C, D. I would ask, can you give me an example? Or you have to read it to me. Then can I have an example? Can you break it down? And a lot of people say I'm on the spectrum of being retarded because obviously everyone learns at a different pace.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I'm like, yes, you just read it to me, but I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Can you give me an example? For an example, you're at a 4-way intersection. Who has right of way? Obviously, the guy going first, going straight, or something like that. I probably just butchered that one. But it's how you learn. And it's funny to mention that because Jackie Chan doesn't read a script. He improvs. And a funny story, who I interviewed, he worked with him. He used to scare the crap out of his castmates because they never knew what he was going to say, because he would just ad-lib. For me, my dad says I have diarrhea of the mouth. So I'm really good at ad-libbing. I would watch something, then I'm like, okay, now I should reenact or act to the scene how I see it. If you give me like, here's the script, a couple questions, it's one of those things like the question that's coming up, but it's premeditated. Reason I don't give people any questions is because I want it to be real. I want it to be spontaneous. It's saying you have to show real emotions. Like, for an example, you guys saying we don't know who's going to act next, but I like keeping it real. But I want this to be really fun. Molly, do you have any questions you want to ask Paul or Michael or me? Because I want this to be interactive.
All right. Well, I've got one for you. How do you come across your guests? Because you have all kinds of different people, and I'm just wondering how that comes about for you.
No, absolutely. I use LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn. It's, for the most part, it's good, but you can find fake people on there occasionally. But, Facebook, I know Mike, you probably agree with me on that. But, for me, mostly LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Started to use Backstage. I know that's not really what you're supposed to do, but I'm just going to throw myself underneath the bus. I made myself a profile. I will come across you guys' profiles. Like, oh, you're an actor? I would introduce myself, say, I have a talk show. I would like you to be a part of it.
Mhm.
People like to tease me. It's like, oh, you're spamming people. No, I'm just networking because I don't have other ways to do that. But, for the past 10 years, I can finally say that. For the past 10 years, most of my interviews came from LinkedIn, Facebook, sometimes Twitter, Instagram, but I don't know any other websites besides now, as I mentioned, Backstage and Mayonnaise.com. If you guys know any other ones, I would recommend that. But I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
What about you, Paul? Do you have any questions for me or for our guests?
So you're almost up to 1,000 shows. So when did you start this? What year was it?
I don't remember the date, but I know a lot of people say like, that's a big thing. So I just made it up. I say 10 because 10 is a solid number. June 10th of 2013.
2013. Oh, wow. Okay. That's
And
great.
I met a lot of great people. I met a lot of people that seemed real, but they were actually assholes. And I got
That's me, actually. I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez.
no, don't worry about it. But the one thing I do want to point out, reason I have permission forms is because at the time I was taking people at their word. And then I do apologize. This is your time. And if you guys don't want to hear what I have to say, but this is the thing I'm working on. It's not about me, it's about the guests. Long story short, I was taking people at the word, and they were like, yeah, my agent said, my publicist said, I just recently signed with Fox. I recently signed with this person. We don't like your video quality. You ask a lot of stupid questions. One of my favorite sarcastic responses is, I'm getting death threats. Death threats? No one knows who the hell you are. But it's like, yeah, I was really supposed to be in this James Bond movie. I was supposed to be an extra. But when people look me up, your interview comes up, and it's a big red flag. Wrapping up with the Keith Angie Network, it was an honor and privilege having you guys on the show. But the last question I want to ask you, starting off as Molly, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, I want you to be brutally honest. What made you say yes? How do you feel now? And for people who are watching, what would you recommend for them to be a part of?
Okay.
I feel terrible now. I'm joking. Sorry, continue. Sorry, Molly, please.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, when I was first approached, I was like, where is this from? But I usually, I tend as an actor, I say yes to most experiences in life, unless they seem like they're going to be something mean-spirited or, so, and like I said, I volunteer with actors with disabilities. And once I learned that your show was, promoting that, I definitely am down for the cause and is happy to be here. I'm happy to new friends, and yeah, so it's all good on my end.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, it was all good. Like when you approached me, I was in a difficult situation. My mom had lung cancer, my dad had prostate cancer, so I was living with them at the time, and I thought, oh, I can't I can't do the show because I've got them in the background and everything else, but now you've got this lovely background set. And as a starving artist, you got to do what you got to do for the time being. But I have people with disabilities in my family, and I deal with people with disabilities on a daily basis. So I'm all for it, and it's all good. And and any it's promotion, and any promotion is good.
No, absolutely. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. I love being on camera, so like it's an easy sell. Hey, do you want to do this thing? It involves a camera and you. I'm usually like yes, but I was also I was also intrigued by the vision of what you specifically do and the community you're supporting, which I think is quite neat. And Paul, I also live in my parents' basement. So
there we go. So we're not alone. I've moved out since then, but
why would you do
but,
that?
that's why I was doing the show in the New Year. So.
Got it. No, I'm still here, and I love it.
It's all good. I still visit my parents, and it's all good. But you know, you do what you have to do. But you know how it is. You know how it is as an artist. Like you never know whether you're coming or going, or whether you got a job on the go, or what's going on. But that's what makes it interesting, right? So
definitely.
No, absolutely. I do have a couple questions for you guys off the air. But if you're watching on all social medias, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until we meet again, it was a real honor and privilege. I just want to say thank you for your time and have a good night.